Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo NASCAR Live Before Lock Show, as we are here to get you ready for today's NASCAR race. Of course, we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. We'll tell you a little bit about Monkey Knife Fight later on in the show, talking about some of those player props that they have over there at monkeyknifefight.com. But of course, we are here to talk about the Alley 400 today from Nashville. So Phil, we got to start there. This is a track that the Xfinity trucks had not been to since 2011. You know, NASCAR's not been here. First time, and you wrote on Awesemo.com today of essentially this is a track that's essentially been vacant since 2012.
Yeah. The last time that we raced here, technically we, as in the Xfinity series, Carl Edwards was your race winner, and this was back when Carl Edwards was still driving for Jack Roush. So I mean, if people are familiar with the series, that gives you an idea of how long it's been here. Yeah, basically following that 2011 season, the Xfinity series and the Truck series, they stopped racing here. You know, it was during that silly time of, well, we need to focus more on mile and a half venues, even though this is basically just a mile and 1.33 miles. But outside of maybe some occasional testing that some teams have done, this track has sat pretty vacant. So when you consider that for a decade, nothing has gone on here, and if you've watched the truck race, you've watched the Xfinity race, you've watched the practice, I mean, track looks fantastic for something that's basically been derelict for a decade. And you know, you've got that's one of the main things is that for this weekend is that you've got a track that has been left to its own devices for all of this time. It's a concrete surface. There's just a lot of unknowns about how tires are going to hold up. The projection has been that this is definitely going to be a high tire wear race. You know, concrete surfaces like Dover, they don't tend to wear tires down nearly as much. But I mean, this is an old surface. And then what I talk about, when you are doing absolutely nothing to attract to a track to keep it up for a decade, you should expect that tire wear is going to play a role. And Goodyear NASCAR, they did two different tests here. The first test, they found out, yeah, this tire wear, it's bad. So they added some resin, manipulated what the tires that they were gonna use, and they found that it's a weird dichotomy that there is tire fall off, but it's not exactly impacting lap speed. If you can get that in your mind, and it's something that I'm still trying to grasp, because you figure, like a track like Darlington or a track like Atlanta, that if there's tire fall off, then there's going to consequently be lap speeds falling with that. But they found that even though there is tire fall off, that the lap speeds aren't necessarily decreasing. It just creates for a crazy scenario. And then add on same day qualifying. I'm sure a lot of people at home are just saying, Philip, shut up, give me the picks.
I know one of the things that you had over on your Twitter account earlier this week, where you talked about the things to consider for this weekend: A, practice; B, the horsepower package here at 750 horsepower, the high tire wear track stats, Homestead, Atlanta, Darlington, Dover, and the tire combo track trio of Dover on the right side, Kansas, Charlotte on the left side. And you had this great note about Goodyear and Kyle Larson, with Goodyear using tires from Dover, Charlotte, and Kansas. With those three races are combined, Kyle Larson, a 140.3 driver rating, average running position of second, average 86 fastest laps, average 240 laps led. So yeah. I guess are we talking in terms of roster construction that this is a Kyle Larson race day?
Yeah, the majority of people were coming into this week following Kyle and his just myriad of top two finishes and then 3 straight victories. The people were going to play Kyle Larson, but then when you consider these other variables, like, yeah, Kyle's been so in the 750 horsepower package. He practically destroyed Dover, but didn't end up winning that race. Alex Bowman was able to pass him late. But yeah, I mean, you look at the high tire wear tracks, it's been Kyle Larson. You look at this tire combo, it's been Kyle Larson. And then when we consider lap times from yesterday's lap session, He was the fastest in the 5-lap interval. He was the fastest in the 10-lap interval. He was the fastest in the 15-lap interval. Whatever your feelings were about Kyle Larson coming into this week, when you line up the stats, when you line up this weekend, it's just pointing to Larson's ownership spiking through the roof.
And by the way, Alex did update ownership over Awesemo.com. So be sure to check that out. Of course, before we get more into roster construction, of course, if you do want to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, the best way to do that is by submitting a 5-star rating and review with your Twitter handle or also username on the Awesemo Podcast Network. Of course, we've got podcasts out there for all the sports. And when you leave that 5-star rating and review, you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One lucky winner is awarded every Friday. Reviews are eligible to win up to 1 year. And guys, stress this is the best way to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Just make sure part on that podcast rating, leave your Twitter handle or your Awesemo username. And of course, if you do have any questions, be sure to leave those in the chat. We'll get to those as we do go forward. Of course, keep it locked here at Awesemo.com. All day long after us, we got NBA Live before lock to get you ready for the early NBA game. Then we got a later NBA Live before lock. That'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Now we're talking about roster construction. Do want to mention, I already got a question over in our premium Slack channel about dominators, of whether this is a 2 or 3 dominator build race.
Yep. This is going to end up being 399 miles, but when you consider the track length, it's only 300 laps. So consider, generally in our 750 horsepower package races, we get longer races. So this is something on the shorter end. Basically, it's going to be our shortest race of the season that's using this package. 300 laps, that really puts us square in the area of a dual dominator build. We have a fly in the ointment. His name is Martin Truex Jr. because of his horrific qualifying time. But on the periphery, the majority of your lineups, and if you want to stick your toe out there and add in a third, you can possibly take that chance. But quite frankly, considering what we've seen in this package at Dover and Darlington, I'd be more apt to go with a single dominator build than I would 3. So majority of your lineups, I'm going to say 2. But if you want to look towards a single dominator build, depending, with these guys that are starting in the top 5, yeah, go ahead, wheels up.
Yeah, place differential is something we're going to talk about Martin Truex Jr. here momentarily. Of course, we do like to break down these salaries in terms of tiers. Tier 1, it will be the drivers who are 10K and above over on DraftKings. Tier 2 will be the 8 and 9K drivers. Tier 3, the 6 and 7. And then the final tier, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about Quinn Hoff, is the drivers that are underneath 6,000. I do want to mention before we kind of get into that is the fact that we do have 3 drivers who are going to the back. One of them, doesn't matter much because Quinn Hoff, he was starting 39th anyway. The other 2 being Eric Jones, who was slated to start 9th, and William Byron, who was slated to start 4th. So those 3 drivers going to the back of the field. So let's get right into tier number 1. So we only got 4 drivers in this. We talked about Kyle Larson starting 5th already. You got Chase Elliott starting 6th, Martin Truex Jr. starting 35th, Denny Hamlin starting 13th. I do want to mention a question that we already got about Martin Truex Jr. from JJT. Says, what are we doing with Martin Truex Jr.? So 35th, so place differential is all kinds of there. 10,400 on DraftKings, 13,000 over on FanDuel.
Okay. Let's dig into this because this, I think this is really where a lot of lineups are going to separate themselves this week. As people with a narrow window are stressing out about building lineups, they tend to side with safety. And what's the safety here? Like you said, it's Truex in 35th. There is nothing safer on this board than a 3-time winner in this package. Talking about Darlington, we're talking about Martinsville, we're talking about Phoenix. Starting 35th, he's not outrageous either. He's only 10,400. If you're playing cash on DraftKings, I think you just go ahead and play Truex. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be necessarily a block play, but the chances are that Truex is going to race his way up near the top 10. Howsoever, when it gets to tournaments, Truex isn't projected to be the highest or the second highest, but I think getting off of Truex in tournaments is a fantastic place to get away from people that are seeking safety, people that are just making the first lineup that they can. Yes, he has tons of place differential to gain, but when you look at those practice speeds from yesterday, 29th in the top single lap, 23rd in the 5-lap interval, and then 15th in the 10-lap interval. This car did not have speed whatsoever yesterday, and unlike his teammate Kyle Busch that we'll talk about here in a second, we don't have any inclination that they just threw out the setup that they had going into yesterday and then made changes overnight. I mean, it's apparent that Kyle and his team did that because they went from having a slow car in practice to nearly taking the pole today. I don't have those reassurances with Truex. Yes, he's been really, really good in this package, and traditionally at high tire wear tracks, with hotter temperatures, he tends to excel. But I'm just afraid that what we saw from that car yesterday is what we're going to get today, and I'm not thrilled about paying $10,400 for that and matching a bunch of people in the field on that with DraftKings. Now, when it comes to FanDuel, we're de-emphasizing laps led points. Since you're getting Truex at 13,000 on FanDuel, once again, automatic play in cash. And it's really tough to get away from him in FanDuel. I think like the only way that he's not going to end up being optimal in FanDuel is that if he doesn't crest the top 10.
Of course, I mentioned about those ownership projections. You can check that out over at Awesemo.com as a Awesemo Plus member. If you're not an Awesemo Plus member, you can get Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. But if you just want a NASCAR weekly pass, you can get that for $9.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Of course, you also get that top driver tool part of the NASCAR package, so be sure to check out that. Now, when we look at these top 4 drivers in terms of salary, the one that kind of sticks out to me just as a potential, I would call it a leverage play, Chase Elliott starting 6th, 10,700 on DraftKings, 13,500 on FanDuel. Right now on DraftKings, not his ownership is much different than the other 3.
Right, because if you're in that spot naturally, you're going up to Kyle Larson for all of the obvious reasons that we've talked about, or you're saying, well, man, Truex offers me a ton more place differential, and I really don't have, anything written in stone that Elliott is going to be a potential dominator. And then Denny Hamlin, he's been a whole lot more consistent in this package. No finish worse than 7th in these 5 races. And of course, whenever I talk about the 750 horsepower package, we always throw out the Bristol Dirt Race. But shoot, add in the Bristol Dirt Race, and you've got another top 5 finish for Denny in this package. With that little bit of place differential, you don't need that much in terms of dominator points out of Hamlin. He said something yesterday after practice that basically he's yielded to the fact that the Hendrick cars are all faster than him, and if that's the scenario, then his job is to finish 5th, which, I mean, that's a bit telling. But regardless, talking about Chase here, you're getting the Hendrick power. He's been running just as consistently well as Larson. You look at those lap times; they were all top 5, whatever interval you get to. And he ended up there were only 2 drivers that ran a 20-lap interval, and of course he had the fastest time. With Byron falling to the back and Eric Almirola as your pole sitter, this easily could come down to who can get the better launch between Larson and Elliott and passing Kyle Busch. And quite frankly, with them both basically having the same car, having the same engine, what is to rule out Elliott from getting out in front of Larson? And this is something that we haven't touched on, but it's been shown through the races, and this was a fact of Nashville before they ever started racing here, 10 or 11 years ago. This is a track that's hard to pass at. So if Elliott can just simply get out in front of Larson and hold position, he could hold that position until we get a yellow flag for a stage break.
Of course, the other driver in this tier is Denny Hamlin. He is starting 13th, 10,100 on DraftKings, 12,500 on FanDuel.
Right. Hamlin's just been super consistent in this package. You can tell that along with Truex that the 11 team has made a emphasis about trying to do as well in this package as they can, because ultimately the title will be decided at Phoenix in the 750 horsepower package. Hamlin's numbers are skewed quite a bit from Martinsville and Richmond, but even with him not really doing that much in the last two races, his fastest lap averages are still sitting at 46.2 for fastest laps, and then 104.6, which is best in the field in terms of laps led. You're just the obvious decision that a lot of people are going to make here is how many Chevrolet drivers can I get into my lineup? But Hamlin offers you leverage off of that, and we talk about this. That it was Kyle Busch who won in this race yesterday, who picked up a lot of information, and that probably went into the reason why they abandoned the setup they had in practice and changed that. So hopefully that information that he figured out has matriculated its way through the Joe Gibbs stable, and that can pass on to Denny.
Of course, this is the also NASCAR Live 4 Lock Show. If this is your first time checking out Awesemo here on YouTube, you like what you're watching, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We got great programming for you each and every day. Also, hit that notification bell so you know when a show is live on the channel. Of course, coming up after us will be NBA Live Before Lock with EMAC and Terry to get you ready for the first game of today's NBA playoff schedule. And, of course, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. I want to mention a couple of questions that are related to drivers who are going to be in this second tier. So that second tier will be Kyle Busch starting second, William Byron, who was starting fourth. He's now in the back of the field. Brad Keselowski starting 15th, Alex Bowman 8th, Kevin Harvick 12th, Joey Logano 3rd, Ryan Blaney 10th, Tyler Reddick 26th, Christopher Bell 25th, Kurt Busch 30th, Austin Dillon 28th. Of course, one of the questions was from our guy El Negro Loco. So Faye, Jones, and Byron. Another one from Craig saying, is William Byron unplayable on DraftKings with him moving to the back and his 4 slot? Originally liked him today, but now not so much.
Yeah, Byron was going to be in really serious consideration as a potential dominator. Now, if you were going to play Byron as a dominator, I don't say just totally get off of him. Yes, this initially hurts him, and it may very well take him say 100, 150 laps in order to get back up to the front. But I mean, he's super consistent. He's done well in this package. The practice times from yesterday bear it out. He had the fastest single lap, and then he ran the second fastest 5-lap interval and the 10th fastest 10 lap interval. So the speed's there. It's just a matter of how long it takes him to get up there. He should be in contention to lead probably late in this race. So I think this is what Alex did in his projections, and it's what you should do. Whatever you were possibly projecting Byron's laps led total to be, you've just got to knock that down a hair. Now, because of this process of him working his way through the field, he may stumble into some extra fastest laps. But I think that the main thing here is don't get scared off by Byron having to go to the back. He'll pass a bunch of guys initially, and then it'll just be a work for him to get up there. But he should still be a guy that you're considering as a secondary dominator.
Jack has that same question, but it's over on the FanDuel side of the equation with William Byron.
Okay. That's a tougher sell when we're talking about FanDuel. One, because there's nearly a $2,000 difference between Byron's FanDuel salary and his DraftKings salary. At 11.5, I can go up $500 and get Kyle Busch, who's starting on the front row, and the only person that Kyle has to beat off the line initially is Eric Almirola to have the lead. Or I can go down, and we're talking about guys with a little, with place differential, Keselowski, Bowman, Harvick, what have you. If you wanted to keep Byron in there as a secondary dominator on FanDuel, I understand it personally. I don't think I would make that call. With lineup construction, it's going to be super tough to play anybody as a second dominator over Martin Truex Jr., who is practically, like I said, the only way that he doesn't end up optimal today is if he doesn't finish in the top 10 because of all of that place differential. Remember, there's only 30 laps led points available on FanDuel today. So if Larson, Kyle, Chase, whoever is soaking up those points early and often, it's not going to leave much left for the rest of these guys. So them reaching that path to being optimal, it's going to be so much more tougher for them, considering that Truex has that place differential in his back pocket.
You mentioned about Kyle starting second, the ability to potentially get out in front here quickly. I mean, is that kind of the thought process of he really, if he's going to ultimately be optimal today, it's going to be about him getting this lead early and just racking up some laps led?
Yeah. The question is, how did Eric Almirola throw down such a fast lap? And he was one of the first guys to go out. The track was a bit green. It had a bit more grip. And then you saw after that, it took quite a while before we finally started seeing some drivers being able to throw up some similar laps. And that was just because they've got, better cars. They've got more horsepower. Kyle obviously learned something yesterday. He ended up winning that Xfinity race, led the most laps. Whatever it was that he learned from just pure track time, it went into the way that they've set up the 18 for today. And we saw that manifest itself through that qualifying lap. Maybe Eric can hold off Kyle on that first lap, but I think Kyle learned how to pass going into turn 1 and turn 2 on the top and the bottom. So it should just be it really should be clear sailing for Kyle going off, leading very possibly, considering how tough this track is to pass at, leading that entire first segment.
As people are developing their lineups today, they're going to look at Kurt Busch starting 30. That place differential, 8,300 over on DraftKings, 8,500 on FanDuel. What's kind of your thoughts on him as a play today?
Kurt, Lord, I want to believe, I really want to believe that we're going to start seeing some more consistency out of Kurt. And if it matters to you, Kurt was one of the 3 drivers that got to come here and do testing, so he's got a little more familiarity with this track. And God knows that he's ran here before in the Xfinity series, probably 20 years ago or so. But practice time 6th in the single lap, 17th in the 5 lap. I think you give Kurt the benefit of the doubt because it's Chevy, because of the believe that Chip Ganassi still has they have their Hendrick partnership. So the engines that are going into the Hendrick cars are going into the Chip Ganassi cars. Kurt, you want to play him in cash, you want to play him in GPPs, whatever format you're looking at. I think he's a solid play. You look in this package, he only has one finish worse than 21st. That was a DNF at Darlington. Everything else has kind of been a 13th or a 15th. And if he gives that to you once again today, that's going to be solid, especially for cash.
Looking at our ownership projections, and one that kind of sticks out just because it maybe gets a little bit of leverage on the field here, and that'd be Brad Keselowski starting 15th. He's 9,500 on DraftKings, 10,300 over on FanDuel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People are not going to want to play Brad, especially if they're looking at the practice numbers from this week. It's 26th in the single lap, 22nd in the 5 lap interval, and apparently, the rule of thumb is that if a guy is only giving you single lap runs or 5 lap runs, then he's unhappy with that car, and he's going back to the shop, asking them to adjust something, then going back out there. So I got to say, in yesterday's practice, perhaps there was something that he just did not like about the way that this car was running. You look in this package, he's got a peak of 4th at Phoenix. Everything else, it's so. I think that if you're going to play Brad as a GPP play, not as a pure dominator play, but if you're going to play him as a GPP play, getting off of Byron because he's starting at the back, getting off of Bowman, trying to find a ownership spot, then the hope is that whatever Logano is doing setup wise, that it finds its way to Keselowski, because there has been a stark difference between these two in the different packages. Brad's been the better guy in the 550 horsepower package, while Logano's been better in the 750 horsepower package. Mm-hmm. So, on the surface, you start to see, okay, there's a reason why Keselowski's not going to have the ownership that he should, but still starting 15th, there's place differential to gain, and hopefully whatever Joey's doing will find its way to Brad.
Well, yes, you mean look at Joey Logano starting 3rd, 8,900 on DraftKings, 11,000 on FanDuel. So he's right there, the top of the pack here, potentially. Where's he kind of fit in a dominator mentality here?
Yeah, definitely a potential dominator. I think really depending on the lane that Eric Almirola chooses, he could be getting a push from Logano, and if that push is well enough, then both Almirola and Logano are going to possibly end up going past Kyle. And that was one of the screwier things yesterday in the Xfinity race, is that Kyle just consistently was just not nailing the launch off the line when the green flag would wave. So perhaps that gives you some concern about Kyle, coming off the line, if you're hoping like I am that he's going to be an early dominator. And if that's the case, then what's to stop Logano from being that guy that pulls past Almirola? Like I said, he's been much better in this package, in the short track package, than he has in the 550 horsepower package. Top 10 finishes, actually top 6 finishes in 4 of the 5 races. You add in the Bristol Dirt race, he won that race. I think wheels are definitely up for Logano as a potential dominator.
Austin Dillon starting 28th. Obviously, there's place differential there. He's 8,100 on DraftKings, 8,000 over on FanDuel. Where is he kind of coming? Maybe is he more of just a cash game play for you?
Yeah, and the 4 guys that are all kind of grouped together here on DraftKings, you've got Reddick at 86, you've got Bell at 84, Kurt at 83, and then Austin Dillon at 81. Chances are that you're not fitting 2 of these drivers. Well, depending on how low you go, Quinn Half, which is totally disgusting in cash, but I think we can make an exception this week. You very well could end up with two of these guys, but if you're not going all the way down to Half at 4,500, then you're not going to end up with 2 of these guys. So it's the question of, okay, do I play Reddick? Do I play Bell? Do I play Busch? Do I play Dillon? These guys are all, I'm not going to say that one's probably any better than the other for cash game purposes. And if you're a hedger like me, you just build multiple cash game lineups, and you play 5 head-to-heads with Bell, and then you play another 5 head-to-heads with Busch, and vice versa with Dillon. Quite frankly, I like all of these guys to practically kind of end up the same place as far as their DraftKings points. Obviously one of these guys is going to peak above the others. Why not Dillon? He's got a bunch of finishes in the teens. He's got a best of 10th at Richmond. Richmond is, it's different surface, but it's kind of similar in the shape and the layout. The 5 races that we're looking at in this package, Dylan has 4 lead lap finishes, and that's really going to be beneficial to you today, is trying to get as many guys as you can across the line that are going to finish on the lead lap to necessarily bump up your chances of having a top score.
Today's Awesemo NASCAR Live 4-Lock Show is sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. They have player prop-based contests that are easy to play, super simple. Just go to monkeyknifefight.com, because with Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. And Monkey Knife Fight has an instant first match deposit bonus of up to $100 when you sign up with the promo code Awesemo. And when we are talking about NASCAR, it is about more or less in terms of fantasy points. And, just kind of refreshing it up here. So we got Denny Hamlin, of course, starting 13th, 16.5 fantasy points. And if you're not familiar with how it works over there in terms of it, you get 0.1 points for laps led. If it's a first place finish, 20 points, second place, 19th, going all the way down to where 20th place gets you 1 point there. Also, Brad Keselowski, he's also at 16.5. So kind of an interesting one to see where those two guys could potentially end up there. Kind of any thoughts on when we're talking about Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski?
Oh, yeah. Keselowski kind of I want to be optimistic about Keselowski, because throughout his career he's always been a good driver at shorter tracks, and that was especially the case last year. But something has flipped for that team this year. But yeah, Hamlin's just the king of consistency in this package. If he doesn't finish with a top 5, I will really be surprised today.
Yeah, if you want to look at some other more or less out there, you got Kyle Larson, 19.5. And then you got Kyle Busch. He's at 17.5. I feel like a lot of people, when they see that Kyle Larson one, they're just going to magically say more.
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter what the fantasy format is that this week, or the site, the question to Kyle Larson is always going to be, yes, please.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a smash play there. And of course, ownership is definitely showing that. Let's move on to the tier 3 salaries. So these will be the drivers in the 6K and 7K range. So you got Matty D starting 11th, Eric Amarola on the pole, Ross Chastain 19th, Chris Buescher 17th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 14th, Cole Custer 7th, Eric Jones, of course, was supposed to start 9th. He's now in the back of the field. Ryan Newman, 29th, Michael McDowell, 23rd, Bubba Wallace, 21st, Daniel Suarez, 22nd, Chase Briscoe, 16th, Ryan Preece at 20. Let's start off with Ryan Newman, because that is obviously someone that people are looking at. Place differential here, starting 29th. His salary, $6,800 on DraftKings, and over on FanDuel, he is $5,300.
Yeah, Newman is probably just going to be a smash play for a lot of people, because when you look in this range, and if you move your eyes up, maybe a couple $100 here on DraftKings, you say, okay, God, I can't play Cole Custer because he starts 7th. Eric Jones, he's going to be scored from 9th, and he's starting from the back. There's Newman, a driver that I know, and equipment that I can feel kind of safe with. He's starting 29th, and then McDowell in this package, his best finish has been 25th. I'm not excited about that. And then there's Bubba, and then there's Suarez and Briscoe and Preece. So naturally, Newman's going to say, okay, that's the guy that I feel has the most upside, that can actually pick up some place differential, get me a good finish, and let's go with that. And in cash, yeah, I mean, you want to play Newman in cash, go for it. That's probably your safest bet in this range. Although, to be quite honest, I think I kind of actually prefer Bubba and Suarez head to head. Here's the thing that I don't like about Newman. And yes, he had respectable lap times yesterday, 9th in the single lap interval, and then 6th in the 5-lap interval. It's looking what he's done in this package. No finish on the lead lap whatsoever this year. That suggests to me, and this is an average finish of 22nd. If he's starting 29th and he's going to struggle to pick up 4 to 5 spots, then he's easily going to be a candidate to get lapped before the end of the first segment. And if he gets slapped, then it's going to cut him off at the knees, and it's going to be a struggle for him to pick up any more place differential outside of a litany of wrecks for the rest of the day. So that's why in tournaments, I think getting off of Newman is a fantastic place to be if you're playing on DraftKings, or quite frankly FanDuel, where he's discounted down to 5,300. He's going to be popular because of that place differential and because of name equity. But quite frankly, I think he's a driver that you probably should be looking to get off in tournaments.
There are some drivers in this range that are getting very low ownership, and some are understandable. Eric Jones, because of, what he's going to have to do just to, get back up to ninth, the back of the field. Cole Custer starting 7th. Understandable why, people are not going there. Eric Amarola on the pole. And obviously, I thought if you're going to be an Eric Amarola backer, he's going to get some laps led. Also Michael McDowell down there kind of low. Chase Briscoe down there low as well. I mean, as you look at in this range, are there some drivers that, you're almost saying like, man, I'm really trying to limit my exposure, whether you're playing a 3 max, 20 max, or 150 max?
Go all the way up to Matty D, and Matty D might catch some people's eyes because that's obviously going to be the easiest way to pivot in tournaments. Instead of playing the 4 chalky guys in the 8Ks, is, well, crap, let's just play Matty D, and there ain't no way that I want to play Eric Almirola, so let's play Matt. Matt has not been good in this package, and like we've talked about over and over again, we addressed this last week with his upside in the All-Star races. He needs restarts at the end in order to move his way up. And yeah, we definitely saw those in the Xfinity race yesterday, but God, there's no guarantee that what we saw at the end of that race is going to transfer its way over to today. Ross Chastain is becoming a popular play among NASCAR Twitter. You look at his finishes in this package, no finish outside of the top 20, back to back top 15 finishes. But at that salary, you need a top 15 finish out of Chastain. And we know as aggressive as he is, he could easily just overdo it. I mean, if people were watching qualifying, a lot of guys weren't trying to overdo it. They were just driving hard into the corner. And a couple of them, Half and Jones, found their way into the wall. And then a couple of other guys nearly ended up hitting the wall, including Martin Truex Jr. That's why his lap was so bad, because he had to just literally get out of the gas to keep from swiping the wall. So Chastain, I think, especially if you're playing in a league with some self-proclaimed smart people that know their way around NASCAR, I think you can expect Chastain to catch some ownership. But outside of being a 15 through a 19th place driver in this package, and he's done all right when you consider other high tire wear tracks. But that's the thing. If he was in the 6Ks, then this is a whole lot easier of a discussion. But at 7,600, I think you're gonna probably need just a hair more than another 15th place finish from Chastain.
Of course, make sure to rock that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile. If you want to get that avatar right now, just go to awesemo.com/avatar to download that. And we do want to put a feature on people that have gone into the Awesemo Hall of Fame this week. Of course, when you finish in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants, tweet your wins to @AwesemoHOF. You'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And note that only 1 free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. Start off with the boss man, Alex, taking down first place in a golf showdown, winning $50K. Kudos there to Alex. Also, we had Clue 2 times 5, winning $13,000 in the NBA contest. And then King Lefty 71 chopping first place in an NBA contest, winning $2,000. And also kudos to the nice little picture we got in there, rocking that Awesemo t-shirt from Gray_A_picks. Kudos. Love seeing that Awesemo logo out there. And of course, hopefully we can see you on those profiles here today for this NASCAR race. Now let's get into the final tier number 4, drivers that are underneath 6K. So I want to quote Phill from our Slack channel about 2 hours ago, where Phill, you wrote, "Peeps, I think Hoff is a necessary evil this week, and I hate it."
God. DraftKings didn't do us any favors by pricing Half as 4,500. And then what does he go out and do? He nicks the wall with his right rear quarter panel, ends up basically not doing a lap, and he's going to start dead last. You can put together some pretty awesome lineups this week with Half, especially when all you really need are just 2 dominators, so that you put those 2 dominators together. Or let's just say, for kicks and grins, that you're going to go with the approach that Larson is going to crush this field again. He's going to sit out front. He's going to lead the majority of laps, and Truex is going to find his way into the top 10, pick up all that place differential. You take those 2, you throw in Half in there, you've still got a bunch of salary left over to play with.
I just did that. All right, so Quinn Hoff, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr. That means for your final 3 spots, you have an average remaining 7,767 per driver.
Right. So, and I don't know if this is going to be the chalk build, but you can easily take 2 of those 8K drivers that we were just talking about, and then what are you left with? You're left with trying to fill in a 6K driver.
Let's just say you throw a Daniel Suarez into that mix. Now you've got, with your final 2 spots, average amount you can spend per driver, 8,500.
Yeah. And that works. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that lineup. I can't tell you, I can't look at you in the face and say, no, don't play that lineup. The punts never work. People, on my day off Friday, I updated the 750 horsepower and the 550 horsepower package stats, started adding in the optimal lineups in there. And we have this idea that the punts are terrible, no good, you can't play them. Well, you know what I found a couple of times? Those punt plays actually find their way into the optimal lineup, because sometimes all you need from them is just to pick up a couple of spots. And when it's the guy that's the bare salary, the bare minimum salary, who's starting dead last, the necessary what you need from him this week, it's so minimal, it's disgusting. So that's why I said it's a half week. I don't want it to be a half week, but I think the scenario is so perfect this week that it lends itself towards that. Now, am I saying go 60% half in a 20 max or a 150 max? No, by no means. I mean, his practice speeds, they were exactly what you would expect. It was 36th out of 39 drivers in the single lap, and then 32nd out of 34 drivers in the 5-lap interval. And now we've got this right rear damage, and who knows how that's going to affect this car. Half could easily be the first guy that gets lapped. But if Half can get out there, hang around these guys, pick up some spots through attrition, quite frankly, I think all we really need out of Half is maybe a 34th or a 32nd place finish. And when you look at what he's done in this package, his finishes since Dover have gone 29th, 30th, 34th, 24th, and 32nd. And he's finishing all of these races. It's right there for us, people. It's right there for us. And quite frankly, if you're doing a single entry or a 3 max, I'm not going to tell you not to play Half. He makes the lineup come together.
Yeah. I mean, I just put together a lineup of Kurt Busch, Ross Chastain, Quinn Hoff, Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, Martin Truex Jr., and you still have $1,100 left. Yeah.
And that is something I wanted to touch upon. I'm glad you brought that up with that remaining salary. I was playing with some salaries, and because I'm purposely trying to stay away from Newman in tournaments, I found myself with some with some salary cap left over that I normally would not be comfortable with. Mm-hmm. We're talking about 500-600 plus left over. And generally in those cases, I will find a pivot in order to fill in a gap, because I don't generally want to leave that much left over. And of course, unless it's a super speedway event. But this week, I think that if you've got 500 plus left over, be comfortable with it. And that will ultimately give you a way to differentiate yourself.
Wyatt mentions, he says, I'm on LaJoy today. Corey LaJoy is starting 24th, 5,700 over on DraftKings, 4,000 over on FanDuel.
Yeah, if you can get up to LaJoy in tournaments, that's a play I can get behind. After initially struggling in this package, his finishes were 27th at Phoenix and then 37th at Martinsville. He's kind of rebounded. His finishes have gone 26th, 22nd, and 21st. He's doing better, and I believe if you just look at his numbers recently, we're talking about 18th, 19th, and 20th. So we're talking 3 straight top 20 finishes out of LaJoy. The buried lead here might be that with the focus being on Corey and his number 7 car, and knowing that Justin Haley's team is not going to exist next year for this outfit, they may fully be embracing the idea of, okay, we're pushing all of our chips in for LaJoy. He's going to be the focus next year. Let's see how well we can get this car going for the rest of the season. And consequently, that affects Haley's performance. But if you can get up to LaJoy, he makes a fantastic pivot off of Yaley, who's going to soak up some ownership. And he's definitely a better play than Alfredo starting 18th.
You mentioned about Quinn Hoff as a punt play. I mean, you look in this here, you've got Smithley starting 36, Gase 37, Starr 38, Balicki 34th, Fincham 33rd, Yaley 32. Are there other punt plays besides Quinn Hoff that are viable plays today?
Oh, I'd like to try to make a case for Chad Fincham, but Chad and David Starr are both racing for Carl Long, MBM, and it's always a winning proposition to never play anybody driving for Carl Long. If people will remember back to the Coke 600, 3 weeks ago, I think it was less than 10 laps into the race that NASCAR was telling David Starr to pick up the pace, or they were going to take him off the track. And then I think he ended up causing a wreck because of his slow lap times. So I don't want to play either of those guys. If you want to get off of House because you're afraid that he's being talked up so much since qualifying that he's going to soak up a bit more ownership than he's deserving, Billicky, he's there. Gase is there. I perhaps you can make the case for Smithley, and it's all because of place differential. Obviously, the guy that you're looking at here is House because of where he starts and because of that salary. But if you wanted to get off of House and look at those other Rick Ware drivers for the sake of ownership, that's something I like.
Of course, be sure to give us a follow on social media. And if you're looking to score a free Awesemo Plus pass, or just want to stay updated on DFS news and also offerings, you got to follow us on all of our social media channels on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. That Twitter handle is at Awesemo_com. Let's get into some questions before we move things on to NBA Live Before Lock. Brian would like to know, who are your favorite dominators for FanDuel?
For FanDuel, that's going to be a short list. I think that we're starting off with Larson. Then we're looking at Kyle Busch, probably Joey Logano, and then Chase Elliott.
Next up, it says Elliott or Truex to pair with Larson in a GPP single entry, trying to be less chalky.
Okay, if you're looking to be less chalky, then just get off of Truex. Get off of Truex, and you're like, if you want to play Elliott for the Hendrick/Chevy correlation, that's great. If you wanted to get on to Hamlin, let me look here at our projected ownership. Hamlin looks to be garnering a little bit more ownership, and I'm going to say that's probably because of place differential and how he's run in this package. So yeah, if you're looking to do something different in tournaments, pairing Larson and Elliott together looks like a pretty good combination.
Next up, Radar Superstar would like to know Truex or Hamlin in a DraftKings GPP.
Okay. My fear is with Hamlin is that he's going to do exactly like he said. He's going to be fighting for a top 5 finish, and that's going to be the peak of his day. And if that's the case, then God, give me the guy that starts 22 positions worse.
David says, can we really trust Ryan Newman in cash? And then John responds with, every time I play a highly owned Newman, he wrecks out.
Right. That's what I was talking about. You're going to end up with more money than you're probably comfortable with in cash. But God, I think based on what they've done in this package, I would probably feel just a hair better about playing either Wallace or Suarez than Newman. Newman's going to be the easy choice, and therefore he might be the choice you make just to block other people in big field 50-50s or double ups. But if you're playing head to head, your better decision might be going down to Wallace or Suarez instead of playing Newman.
Craig asked about the term dominator. Maybe there's some people in here that are very new to NASCAR. And Craig's question was, how can we define a dominator? Is it a salary, pole position, or something else? So for a newer NASCAR player, let them know about what classifies someone as a dominator.
Dominators are simply drivers who accrue the majority of their points via fastest laps and laps led. That's what that comes down to. So when people look at the race sheets, I categorize drivers by 3 different colors. And drivers that are purple, those are drivers that you play based on their upside to gain laps led and fastest lap points.
Of course, be sure to subscribe also right here on YouTube. Coming up next is NBA Live Before Lock with Emac and Terry to get you ready for the first game of today's NBA playoff action. And of course, we'll have a later NBA Live Before Lock with Lawfully and Eric as they will get you ready for the late game tonight. And if you do have any last minute questions, you can throw those in there now. Let me ask you this, Phill, is there a driver we haven't brought up that you think you're going to get a lot to today as you're developing your lineups?
Oh, to be honest with you guys, on FanDuel, I have 1 lineup, and on DraftKings, I have 4 lineups. The way that this morning started for me with my real life job, it was not looking fantastic for my DFS prospects. So I grabbed just a few lineups just in case I was going to have to pretend that I needed to go to the restroom and then build some lineups while I was busy trying to get a computer fixed. I don't feel fantastic about this, but I am sitting at 100% Quinn Houff. So there's no way that this goes bad today.
Hey, look, sometimes that strategy can work out.
Yeah,
it can work out. There's times where for me, like the other night NBA, I just locked Terrence Mann in, and he went off the game of his life. As someone who's watched a ton of Terrence Mann basketball, from FSU now to the NBA. Yeah, but sometimes, that's the only thing that's scary is when you lock somebody in at 100% in a multi-entry. You're like, oh man, I hope that does turn it around. We'll leave on this question: is Justin Yeley viable considering he raced yesterday? Yeah,
and this is actually something that we didn't bring up. If you wanted to give a nod to the drivers that raced in the Xfinity or the Trucks race, just simply because they've got laps underneath their belt for today's race. So that would include Ross Chastain. That would include Ryan Preece, who won the Trucks race. That, of course, talks about Kyle Busch. That adds in Tyler Reddick. Those are just some names. And then you add in J.J. Yeley. Yeah, Yeley starts 32nd. He got priced up oddly to 5,500 here on DraftKings. I don't quite know what's up with that. But just the fact that he got time on this track, and he should, out of everybody starting in the 30s, he's going to have probably the best idea of what to expect on this track and how to get around early. Yeah, if you don't want to play, LaJoie, you want a little more, quote unquote safety, then I like Yeley.
And of course, that is going to do it for Live Before Lock. Coming up next is NBA Live Before Lock with Emac and Terry to get you ready for the start of today's NBA action. Good luck to everyone today, your NASCAR lineups, and we will talk to you next week for the also NASCAR right here on Awesemo.com. Good afternoon, everybody.